have spent decades learning the secrets of the relics and how to bring them to consciousness. The result is Knack, a living, thinking, breathing creature.
This little guy is Knack, and for reasons that are as mysterious as they are irrelevant, he gets bigger and stronger as he accumulates mystifying relics. He was discovered, or maybe created is the better word, by this guy, the Doctor. And the two of them find themselves in a story that combines goblins and mechs and archaeology, where 1 minute Knack's 3 feet tall, sneaking through security systems, and the next he's the size of an office building, tossing tanks and helicopters. While all this sounds amazing, Knack sadly wastes most of its potential and leaves us with an unexceptional game that feels like it could have been so much more. The best and most interesting part of Knack is the character's ability to grow in size, power, and reach by collecting relics, and how he loses them and shrinks as he takes damage. Some of the more extreme changes in scale also give you a tremendous sense of perspective and power. Walking over the tiniest enemies as a giant is one of Knack's finest moments. Now, I love the concept of managing your speed, size, and strength as actual resources, and there's loads of potential for intriguing dilemmas where you need to risk those assets to acquire even more. Unfortunately, whether you're big or small is more dependent on what the level designer wants than on your own choices and actions. While small variations in size are generally tolerated, nearly every level dictates just how big or small you're going to be. This disappointment also applies to some of the alternate materials Knack can absorb. It's great to build Knack out of mirrors or ice or flaming logs, but those elements are only ever available in specific situations where they're really the only answer to the problem in front of you. There's no process of discovery by trial and error here. Just moving forward. Most of your time in Knack will be spent fighting a wide range of enemies, and it's generally pretty satisfying. Outside of a few special moves, there's really only one attack button, but it's varied based on how big you are, who you're fighting, and how close you are to them. Each enemy type requires a slightly different approach as well. Now, Sony calls Knack a platformer, but there's really very little by way of exploration or environmental challenges here. Yes, there are some jumping sequences and the ever-present secret rooms, but the succession of fighting areas are small and it's just lather, rinse, repeat as you move from enemy to enemy throughout the game. There are other choices that disengaged me as well. The flow of play is constantly interrupted by loads of short transitional cutscenes where Knack jumps off a ledge or climbs over a low wall, which is all stuff we're usually doing anyway, so it's jarring to have control wrested away just to show you something you've done a dozen times already. Worse are the cutscenes that show Knack doing something spectacularly cool, like destroying a munitions plant. It feels like they're cheating us out of the payoff for playing an entire level. Knack also struggles with some story issues, both with regard to the plot and the overall tone. And we might be willing to give games of this genre a pass on the thin narrative, but Knack continually seems to want to tell a story where something important happens. The problem is that it just keeps falling apart. You start off fighting the goblins who were kicked out of the cities by the humans, but it's never really established that the humans deserve to be spared from the goblins' revenge. You just beat the crap out of them because that's what the plot demands, regardless of the moral questions.
Peace? Whose peace? You drove us from our cities and into the wilderness.
Typical goblin, always living in the past.
I'm not quite sure what to make of Knack's tone, which is just as ambiguous as the story in points. The little version of Knack is totally adorable in spite of his always serious Ron Perlman voice.
Ah, that's better.
And the big 50-foot-tall version is absolutely intimidating, even though it looks distractingly like a Muppet. While the character designs are intriguing, it's hard for me to look at this face and not wonder at the lack of humor or charm in the rest of the game. The whole story sort of reminds me of the relics that make up Knack himself. Some basic, recognizable forms that really don't serve any function beyond giving Knack a general sort of shape.
This is evil. Join you? Never!
Playing Knack is like watching a dull movie on a plane. It's tolerable if all you want is a way to pass the time, but it's not something you'd seek out for its own sake. I finished in about 11 hours, and challenges, co-op, and secrets aside, there's just not much here worth recommending. Sure, some individual elements show potential, particularly when the scale of the encounters changes as Knack grows, but it never moves beyond playing it safe with the concept or the characters. For more content on Knack, head to IGN. In the meantime, here's an extended look at the gameplay.